Hi, this is Deborah Cohen at Matwork Clearwater FL with your daily tip as a beginner older adult like me. The classes will be available in Clearwater, Florida area the end of 2023. So while you're waiting for the classes to start, this is a key foundational understanding to have when you're doing the core work. Now, something that I've looked for on YouTube to see other seasoned teachers, how they teach Pilates mat work as a beginner class, I so far haven't found anybody that mentions the pelvic floor when we're thinking about our breath work, which you can see in a previous video on my YouTube channel. So this is important for older adults especially. In my case, I've had a hysterectomy, and in that space where the uterus used to be, the bladder drops. And as you get older, if you don't work on your pelvic floor muscles, you can start dribbling urine. And who wants to have to wear a diaper or a pad? I do not. So please learn these visualizations when you're doing any core work. You will see on my right is a diagram of the transverse abdominis. That is the muscle, the deepest muscle in your abdominal core that you want to be thinking of when you're taking an exhalation. Not only the transverse abdominis, but you want to be thinking about the pelvic floor muscles that I mentioned in a previous video that I made called Kegel exercises. You want to be thinking about Kegel exercise when you're doing your breath work for both the inhalation and the exhalation. And you can review that in the video that I made entitled Kegel. On my left, you will see the rectus abdominis. That is the most superficial muscle, which when that muscle from the ribs down to the pubic bone, when they contract, they cause flexion of your core, meaning a forward or bending forward motion, which is something that we use in yoga for Navasana or boat pose. When that muscle contracts, and when I say contract, you want to be thinking about it's getting smaller, shrinking, getting tighter. So you're flexing your rectus abdominis. It causes you to bend forward. And we don't call it Navasana in Pilates. We call it a roll up, I believe. When you're on the mat on your back and you're going to roll up and do an ab crunch, you're thinking about contracting your rectus abdominis and your pelvic floor muscles. And just as a brief review, when you're contracting your pelvic floor, you want it to feel as if you're urinating and you stop midstream. Don't practice that actually urinating because it can cause a yeast infection. So the key is when you're taking a breath in, you become aware of your pelvic floor. So you're contracting your pelvic floor. Now, as a beginner, you might be inclined to contract your thighs also, or your glute muscles, your butt cheeks. That has got to stop. I'm still working on that myself. You do not want to contract anything except the pelvic floor and your abs, thinking specifically of your transverse abdominis. When you exhale, you continue to hold your abdominals and your pelvic floor. Now, as a prerequisite for pelvic floor work, before you ever get on the mat, you should be practicing sitting or laying down, contracting your pelvic floor, holding it for 2 seconds, and then relaxing. You can do this a few times every day. Contract the pelvic floor and relaxing. You can practice it with your breath. Take a breath in, contract the pelvic floor for 2 seconds. Only the pelvic floor, not your legs and not your butt. Nothing else contracts, just your pelvic floor. And then when you exhale, try to maintain that contraction. And when we do the ab work in the Pilates mat work class, you want that to be like second nature. So this is something that you can practice every day before you actually come to my class. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below, and I'll continue to post these little tips and tricks so that you can go and look at either before you take my class or even during. It's a good reminder to be thinking about these muscle groups when you're actually doing the work. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe for more updates. This is Deborah Cohen.